Episode 200. Welcome back. And I really mean that. And if you haven't come back and you're just starting from episode 200, I would go back.
From episode 1.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a journey.
It has been a journey. We're not necessarily celebrating, although every recording session is a celebration. So
Basically. Lately, it's been harder to record than usual, which is, I don't know if that's a good thing, but maybe it is. We have a lot of clever ideas. My birthday has just passed. I am now 29 years old.
happy birthday, man.
Thank you, dude. It's been a crazy, crazy life lately. But for this episode, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite things that I think is perfect for the 200th episode. Since we have done a lot of work, correct? We have done a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yeah, the best topic I can think of today, and I really, really wanted to talk about this, is the amount of work that is available, but the amount of people that exist that don't want to work is just way higher.
I know where you're coming from with this.
Yeah.
I like it.
And this is inspired by, a topic that actually has been like hitting my mind for a while. And I was surprised Chris Will talked about this very recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that he probably mentions a lot, and it got me to think about my work ethic, the hours I put in, the energy, the type of work, and the strategies I use to be where I am today. For anyone that doesn't know, I have a real estate photo shoot company, so that's one. Two, I'm also a cinematographer, so I make movies and all kinds of like business commercials and whatever you want to call it. People call me the guy with the eye, whatever the case is. I'm also an editor and like a guerrilla filmmaker. If you don't know what a guerrilla filmmaker is, it's the guy that does everything from editing to color grading and cinematography and directing and
It's
acting.
like guerrilla warfare except with cameras.
Yeah, it's a single-handed camera, type of person. And I was, to my surprise, hearing news like that, where it's like, there's an excess amount of jobs and nobody wants to work. It's like, what's going on?
Can I bring up the stat?
The stat? Well, if you want to bring up the stat, I can bring up Chris Will's stat.
If I remember it correctly,
Yeah.
it was 7 million American men
Mm-hmm.
between the ages of 22 and 55
Yep.
are either not working or actually are both not working and not looking for a job,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty crazy.
So the lack of looking for a job, nobody wants to work. And I see this as a problem with even my peers, people that I talk to in general, people that I hang out with too. I don't hang out with people as often as I would like. It's always fun to be in leisure mode. But there's a goal-driven thing inside of me, right? My passion is to become truly successful and eliminate all laziness.
Mm-hmm.
You know this already. We've talked about it before, but efficiency in my eyes is a mask for laziness. There are things we could do efficiently, of course. Like get a faster car, drive faster. Cool. Pretty efficient. So I can get to my work on time.
But it's being taken
Whatever
too far.
cases. Yeah. But it's being taken too far. And it's been hitting like even places of service, man. Down to the easiest example I can think of. Okay. Everyone probably knows this, has been to Jamba Juice before, right? We all love Jamba Juice.
Are you
But-
talking about the last time we went?
Not even that. Like, this is just one of the examples. I'm talking about any place you go to get served.
Sure.
There's a cashier, there's a point of sale. If you take a look at the newer generation, we've all been through retail. I'm 29 years old. I've kind of like passed that, right? Been working that since 16. So I needed to venture off, and that's why I'm here. But what I'm saying is the work attitude has shifted,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work. People feel like they're just there to make the money. I'm here for the money. That's it. And in my eyes, that brings up the laziness in you. You're promoting your own laziness. There's no deepness to what you are doing. There's no kindness to the people that you are serving.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this exchange of hurry up. And back in my day, and I would say, dude, just 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the shift in attitude from the service that you get has completely like been twisted.
4 to 5 years ago?
4 to 5 years ago, yeah. If I were to go to McDonald's, I would. It was more likely. There's a higher percent chance that someone would make me leave smiling. But nowadays, it was just a simple exchange of money for goods. That's it.
They don't even
The
talk
person,
to you.
the middleman, the person that is selling to you or that's at the point of sale, has generally a worse attitude. And not even the attitude, man. It could just be neutral, but it's just like there's no exchange of pull or give. It's just I'm the window. I'm the DMV.
It's mediocre.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what it is.
Everyone's turning into this work ethic of the DMV. Next, you know.
And I get it
Are you-
on one hand because these people, not all of these people, but a lot of these people who work these sorts of jobs typically hate the work.
Mhm.
They don't want to be there. They'd rather do something else, but it's a means for them to pay the bills and just make extra money.
Yeah. Well, this is why I mention this. It's because working along the years with different coworkers, okay, you become family. And when you see that everyone operates a certain way, we all hate our lives, by the way. We do not want to be there. We don't want to be clocked in, but we abide by the rules, right? It was easier to follow the rules back then, and people wanted to follow the rules because they saw the exchange. They were providing you life. They were giving you money, were they not?
Yeah.
So act accordingly. But there is no accordance to that. It's like, yeah, I do deserve this money anyway. The way I see it, right, because I am a manager of some sort, I do have employees. It's just, that doesn't slide. It just doesn't slide when you're neutral, you know? I hire based off attitude, work ethic. What kind of person in communication are you? And I'll tell you this from now. Lately, if you try to hire someone, all interviews suck. They're not the right person to do it, but nobody wants to work. So you end up hiring them anyway.
That's
And
a big problem.
every 2 months, I would say 3 weeks to 2 months, you're doing a rehire process all the time. Something very wrong with that. People act like they just deserve money. That's it. And that's where I started having a problem. I'm like, man, if everyone just started becoming a better person in general and accepted their fate for what it is, like if you are a beginner, then you are definitely going to get a beginner's salary. Okay, we've all been through that. We've been through dude, back in my day, $8.75 to work at Target.
Yeah.
But that's like $13 today, I would say. $15, whatever the case is.
Throwing in inflation. Right?
Yeah. So a couple years back, I did work at Target, and this was my second Target job after being 16. So I was around, 24, something like that. And I immediately realized my coworkers were just completely disgusting with how they worked. Like they were just like, yeah, bro, I'll clock in. I'll stay like overtime just to do like whatever. And then what do they do for overtime? They'll sit in the stockroom and do nothing. They'll just sit on the phone. Eventually corporate finds out and you get in trouble, right? But they don't care. They'll just move on. They'll go somewhere else to find a clock in. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not finding a job anymore. They're finding a clock in. They want to spend their time to somewhere where they'll just give them money for nothing. And they get pissed off when we call it monkey work.
At the end of the day,
And monkey can do it.
At the end of the day, it's dog shit work ethic and terrible attitude. And I think that comes down to, and this makes sense considering the stat that Chris Wells' name, that he brought up. I think the culture breeds that. And COVID has certainly, the pandemic has certainly sped that process up and worsened the situation because how many people got checks from the government because of that situation?
Yeah.
A lot. But that laziness and that terrible attitude / work ethic was still present before that.
Well, show me who you are. Show me that you have credentials to begin with. You can't just go out there stating that I do such and such and I am good at this and this and that. All right. Well, if that were true, it would show. You would have something to back it up with, but you don't. And I still pay you. And. So at the end of the day, all I see it for is you're chasing the money. You were never. I remember, dude, when I was looking for a job, I was looking for specific stores I wanted to work at and fit in. And if I didn't get it, I was sad. Nowadays, it's like, I just need the money.
I'll take anything.
I'll take anything, right?
Yeah.
Why do we state this? It's because I feel like there's a lot of passion that's being misled. You know, you're passionate about money. That's very low, I guess. You're much more than that, you know? And what's funny is there's no shortcut to money. You have to work. You have to build your work, you know? The best resume is the one that is within you. What have you done? What have you seen? What kind of situations have you been into? Have you solved any problems? That kind of stuff, you know? Nobody just deserves to be paid.
Yeah.
Let me go back to this tweet. But yeah, go for it. What were you going to say?
I'm going to share a little bit of my experience. I've always hated traditional jobs. I've had a few stints. I've worked at Home Depot before, in auto shop, things of that nature. But I have always hated working a conventional 9-to-5 job, and I've known that ever since the beginning, ever since I took my first job. Over the past few years, I've been grateful enough to have developed a skill within the health and wellness realm, coaching gentlemen, doing things of that nature, which are more entrepreneurial. I'm doing my own thing and I'm providing my own service. Now, the thing is, if you're in that state of being an entrepreneur, it's not always consistent. More often than not, it's not consistent. So I've really struggled with the idea of finding side income and being creative around that. But I'm gaining more clarity around that. And I think that's an important part of the process. Like, you have to know yourself at the end of the day.
Of course. You have to know how you solve problems to begin with, what the problem is. Everyone's problem is going to be different. And it seems like today, everyone's problem is they don't have enough money. But then you look at their spending habits and you're like, why are you driving an M4? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? But point is, anyway, one of my takes on this is the rise of the legalization of marijuana, okay, across all ages. We're talking about 21 to 55, 57 years old, majority, okay? The rise of it, and I tweeted this the other day as a response to someone talking about short form content is really stupid, basically. No attention span. It's really dull. There's not much information in it, you know, that kind of stuff.
It's like social media fast food.
And that's why I vouch for, like, you know, making films that are like an hour and a half or whatever, because you can get deeper, you know, you can really put out an idea there. But across all ages, I felt that this heavily affects the way we input things on a societal level, because weed equals lazy and lazy equals short attention span. It's one of the reasons in my mind today that is leading to people really being antisocial. And you may not recognize it as being antisocial, but if you examine how people are treating you, in a sense, or how you are treating them, and then relate it to your past self, okay, you'll start to realize that the way you comprehend things and the way you feel things out and whatnot is diluted. It's just it's on a diluted level. It does mimic the focus aspect. I know marijuana does that, where it would, across all people, I know a lot of people use it for like creative purposes. Like they'll be like, I like to draw, and sometimes I don't have it in me. I'll be thinking about different things when I draw. So I'll just smoke a little bit, and then I'll be into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why is there the meme that, you know, when you make a beat high as hell and you listen to it next day sober, it sounds like shit?
That's
right?
real.
Why is that the case? So that means marijuana is doing something to your brain. And I think in the long term, there's studies on this too. In the long term, you're actually becoming more and more antisocial. It's more easy for you to be prone to psychoactive crap. Okay. You can be psychotic for a second. You can have psychotic episodes.
Mm-hmm.
You can be into your own head too much. You'll start having scenarios in your head that are just way, way not true. What does this affect? I think this affects how you perceive action. Why? Because you have a rush of ideas. And to a lot of people, having ideas on some sort of supplement or some sort of marijuana drug, whatever, they'll act like the idea was the all, like, because they got the feeling of it, okay? But if you really think about the execution, it took about a year and a half for them to execute anything. And I see this with a lot of my friends, man. It's like, really simple ideas that could have been, like, if you were focused enough, you could have done in 4 days to set up a system, and then, a week to do the work and 3 weeks to do marketing and blah, 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 right? And I'm talking about, like, just merely my experience from, like, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. A lot of people like to start their own stuff. And I see it and I go, why did it take me 2 weeks? Why does it take you a year and a half?
Okay. A lot of people don't have
and you say you run, like, you run on marijuana. So there's clearly something wrong there. And obviously, look at the industry of weed. They're going to promote a lot, make a lot of money, okay? And you can't really promote it as good, but it has been promoted as good so far lately. And in fact, it has been promoted as the tool for you to be alive, technically. It's going to help you. It's going to make you live longer, whatever the case is. That's how most people perceive it. I can't live without this, man. It's too chill. It provides peace between me and people. Well, it's because you're turning lazy. You have nothing to do except the laziest crap. So what is the toughest thing you could do when you're severely high? Is work. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but, and we are speaking in generalities, there are a lot of people who smoke cannabis and, they do their work.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Joe Rogan is likely the best example. But in general, I think it does make people lazier because it's a depressant.
Yeah. Well, it fires your neurons into believing your ideas, like as if they're being done already. You get what I mean? These are things I'm grasping from people around me. This is what I see in them. And it's funny because it's like we live on the same earth with the same racing path, okay? And there may be a finish line, there may not be. We can define that as whatever. But it relatively, if we all started at the same moment, okay, I see more people crossing the finish line in a lot less time than the marijuana users.
You know what I think that is?
These are just interesting, like, points to me. Do you know why that is? I think it's because perception is affected. Your perception of time.
It
like
disassociates you from reality. And this is why I like caffeine and nicotine over cannabis, because nicotine and caffeine stimulates the brain in such a way that you're focused. There's a reason why civilization has used those two compounds to build itself. That's because it allows you to do work in a very streamlined way, and there's no chance of you being lazy on nicotine or caffeine. Like, if you have a cup of coffee or you take a Zyn, you want to do something.
Yeah.
You want to be productive. And I think in general, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And it's just the way that cannabinoids work. Okay. We have cannabinoid receptors. And when, like, think of it clinging. If you understand the science of it, when it clings, it takes about a month for it to really leave. And the effects, depending on person to person, can be 2-3 months, 1 year after, depending on usage and your body type and how your receptors respond to it. It could take you a while to really get out of that dissociation, that out-of-body feeling after you quit or whatever the case is. And every case has that. Whenever a person has quit, they realize that sometimes up to a year, they just feel off. They can't sleep well. Insomnia is introduced, like whatever the case is. And if you read about this anywhere, you'll hear the same thing over and over again. It's that, it's that it has a lasting effect on you and your cognitive ability. What does that mean? That means
Mm-hmm.
Marijuana equals slower.
Well, not necessarily. It depends on the strain.
Well, of course. That's why I said, like, even if you look at the studies, it tells you if it depends on person to person how long it takes to leave you, then that means it's in the input. It's also affecting you differently depending on the person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But I would say, as a whole, from studying just society in general, okay, people's driving, all right, it's no accident that like they made it a DOI now if you get caught high. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That means it is affecting your goddamn brain. Stop acting stupid. You know? Don't act like you don't know what. Like, I'm not saying don't smoke, but I'm saying yes, it is. It, like, you know, it still leads to basically yes in my eyes.
Yeah. Here's also what we're saying. It's a tool. That means with any tool, there are risks and benefits.
Exactly. But anyway, that's just one of them. The other thing is I started to realize that a lot of people use one of their goddamn senses, and it's their eyes. That's it. They don't use anything else, man. Everything to them is visual, you know,
Mhm.
materialistic, whatever the case is. So they'll be like 24/7 at the gym. I have to look good 24/7, you know. I have to have chicks around me 24/7.
Like surface level.
It's just very surface level. Like, there's no deepness. He doesn't have a good connection with his family. Has no morals. His ethics are subpar.
Tends to worship Andrew Tate.
You know?
That's straight up. That's facts. I'm telling you, I see a lot of young dudes who genuinely think Andrew Tate is a god.
Yep.
And they think his lifestyle is like the default one every man should aspire to.
Yeah.
When it's not. He's an individual. He has some bad things about him. He has some great things about him.
Mhm.
But
What about sympathy, empathy, caring, sharing, gratitude?
yeah,
You know, those characteristics really show in a person. Okay. And for me to be like, this is a rarity now, like I have to really filter through to find people that are not even like-minded. Let's just say like-souled,
mm-hmm.
right? We operate the same way from the inside. It's very difficult. And it's seemingly like that affects that. I think that has a lot to do with why people don't want to work either.
Men
EDD
specifically.
Yeah, men specifically. EDD. Man.
If we're
If
talking
you do
about
remember-
gender here, if we're
yeah.
talking about gender here, women are
They're sacrificial.
they are outperforming men on a societal level
Yep.
to an unbelievable degree.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
But it's not a situation where I'm going to demonize a man for that.
Mhm.
Yes, you don't want to become a victim and you want to take responsibility for your life. But at the same time, you have to understand that these men are in pain.
Mhm.
In general, society does not cater to
Yeah.
the feelings or the worldview of a man.
Yeah.
Now we're just shitting on men 24/7.
Mhm.
It's the patriarchy, toxic masculinity, a whole bunch of bullshit like this.
Well, instead of becoming our own fathers, we are now becoming our own little bitches.
Mhm.
Can you see that? So instead of making shit happen, we end up thinking that we're making shit happen, but we make nothing happen. Nothing that is real world acceptable.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? A lot of people operate like this. I have the money. I don't care about anyone else. Right? That type of stuff. Well, it's very bland. Do you that for me just makes me feel like you are not a part of this world.
Mhm.
You know, you just say, I didn't ask to be here. You know, it's kind of like, I got my money and I'm chilling, blah, blah, blah.
Which actually connects to, I think, another important reason why a lot of men aren't working these days or aren't looking for work. There's no clear, definitive purpose or mission in their lives.
There's no actual purpose.
And I think society contributes to that big time, but at the end of the day, it does fall at the man's feet.
Why are you alive?
Yeah, and we've gone through periods where we were completely fucking lost.
Mhm.
Like, no idea what to do, totally in the dumps. But what we did have in our hearts and in the back of our minds was that we're going to figure this out and we're going to find a way because there is a path for us.
We created a mission.
Yeah.
I heard something interesting too about like all of this. And the reason why I bring all this up is because when it comes down to doing business, okay, and I would say fairly new into the business world, okay? I've only been in this for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's like doing business with people by the way, you got to trust them, okay? Because there's a lot of money on the line. You have to be able to work the same, okay? So one can't be a hard worker and the other one's just a lazy piece of crap that barely shows up. Nah, I'm just whatever. You know, it goes against every agreement we had. A lot of the times, that's what I find is that, you know, the first month is fine, and then all of a sudden it starts to slack, and I have full energy still. So it's kind of like, okay, someone's losing their sense of purpose or mission here, and that's where it starts to become difficult. But I heard something cool is never do business with someone that cheats on his wife or cheats on his girl. Because if he cheats on his girl, he's gonna lie to you. He's gonna cheat on you. You know what I'm saying? And then I heard another thing that was really interesting, which was let me remember correctly. Basically, I don't do business with a person that is godless, that doesn't believe in God. And to further explain that, it's to basically say that if a man is godless, then that means that me as a business owner need to watch him 24/7. Why? Because he's going to steal from you. He's going to lie to you. He's going to do all this shady crap.
No
Why?
moral backbone.
No moral backbone. Exactly. And if you can see the world we live in today, the world of OnlyFans and Pornhub and these things that are actually dominating the media industry, and people are going there to work instead of the actual work and jobs, right? To really sell themselves short and just to make money doing godless activities. It's just like a messed up cycle. And that's where it's going. Think of how many people are creating just for Pornhub. Now, take that, times it by 10, and look at OnlyFans. Okay, that's one industry. Two different companies.
It really is the sign of a decaying society. It's a big indicator. Your entire fucking work is based off of not providing real value over the long term to anybody.
What is the value?
Outside of a dude busting a nut.
Bro, I got a dick. Like,
I got a dick too.
So what? That's the thing. And that's when I get pissed at men. Is that men are providing them with this bullshit that we can end it. We can literally end it. As men, we can end the OnlyFans, Pornhub bullshit, moral backbone, disappearing crap. We can end it. But no, we continue to give in. Why? Because we're fat pieces of shit that like to game all day instead of having a real purpose.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, I'm very grateful for competitive soccer and growing up in a household that valued competition.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing soccer at the age of 4.
Mm-hmm.
That has really shifted my mindset in terms of developing discipline, taking responsibility,
teamwork, sportsmanship,
everything,
split tasks, systems, creating systems.
And I generally see that divergence with people who were in competitive sports when they were younger,
mm-hmm.
and people who never experienced that.
Yeah.
In general, that's a very different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
One is more focused on purpose and these values that are extremely important, and the other is just kind of lost. I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Yeah. This episode is really turning ranty, but it's at the same time, this is just really important stuff that I think maybe everybody thinks about and just, haven't heard much about it.
Let's
talk about it. Yeah.
It's the most important discussion we could have,
mm-hmm.
period.
Yeah.
At this point in time with this culture, by far the most crucial discussion we could have. Because we're talking about future generations.
I went to Walmart today to buy the TV for this too. And when I picked it up, I went to the self-checkout. And at the self-checkout, it had one of those security tags on it. So I bought it already, and I asked one of the ladies. And she was like, oh, 1 second. Let me grab you the little device so I can take it off for you. And she goes, she's, by the way, almost 90 years old, hunched back, walks maybe 0.2 miles per minute,
mm-hmm.
or per 3 hours. Let's just say that. Really slow. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, dude, let me do this. I'm not going to make you do this. And she starts putting in the device and like moving it forward. Can you move it forward for me, please? I'm like, dude, why are you working at Walmart? That was a whole different thing. And I was like, She was the sweetest lady, bro. She was like, please have yourself a really lovely day. And I'm like, thank you so much. You've been very kind. Like I don't know what else to say, right? And I was just like, dude, that's how people worked.
Mm-hmm.
That's how people, like, that's a living example of how people used to fucking operate.
Yeah.
And now I look at these dumbass 18, 19-year-olds that are just sitting there like, doot, doot, slow as hell. They're probably fucking high on their job. You know what I mean? That was a big deal when we grew up. Marijuana was illegal. Think of how sick that was when it came to either doing it or working. When you were working, you weren't doing it for the most part. And if you were, you would get caught. You know, it's a very distinct smell.
Mm-hmm.
The cops were called. I've seen so many people get escorted and arrested for that crap.
Which is part of the reason why it's so easy to succeed today.
There we go. Put a little clear eyes. Oh, we're chilling. Nobody will be able to tell. Dude, we can tell. You're slow as shit, you know?
Bro, if I wake up at 6:45 a.m., to a lot of young people, that's a different universe. I wake up at 11 a.m., noon, 2 p.m. What?
They're in their growth periods, too. That's the stupid part.
Bro, I got a whole day done while your ass is still struggling to get it out of bed.
That's what I'm saying. But that's besides the case for that. I don't want to, like, bash marijuana users or anything. But I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why, you know? Because on a societal level, it is legalized now. It is very easy to purchase. It's everywhere. It is a small pen this big. It could be a large pen that big. It could be a full-blown fucking blunt. Whatever you want it to be.
But it is just one of the reasons. It is an addiction.
It is one of the reasons.
It can be an addiction mentally.
Another one that you're going to hella love is the diminishing testosterone. Now, we have lost about, 20% since the past 4 years, 8 years, 10 years?
No, I think it's like 30. We're on like 30, 35% for the past couple decades. Maybe ever since the 70s.
Yikes. If you guys don't know what testosterone is responsible for, it's responsible for your fucking manhood. All right? Your whole existence. Your whole nebulae. Whatever the hell you want to call it, right? Okay? The reason why you can't think straight either, and you decide to use marijuana to begin with, is because you have low T. Okay? Marijuana is also linked to potentially being lowering your testosterone.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you why.
That threshold is kind of on and off, you know?
Cannabis is highly estrogenic.
So maybe we should sit like this now.
Your asses.
Low T energy? Yeah.
But that's just one of the reasons why testosterone is tanked. I mean,
Exactly.
there are
There's
a host of reasons.
A host of reasons. The rise of gaming. A lot of indoor time, all right? I doubt anyone is playing Dota 3 or Dota 2 in the sun.
Yeah, vitamin D3 is huge for testosterone.
Another thing. The obsessiveness with jacking off.
Men don't know how to retain.
And when I say jacking off, I mean not just jacking off. I mean you're watching porn.
Masturbation.
Yeah. That's we need probation for that masturbation. And dude, that is the reason why. And if anybody's going to disagree with that, then you have more retention to do because you're not thinking straight. Trust me, if your T levels are correct, every man pretty much thinks the same.
I'll tell you what. Instead of watching pornography, how about you just talk to women and actually have sex with women?
Mm-hmm. Well,
now do so in a responsible way.
Women in the market today are way worse than our grandmas. You know?
Yeah.
That's the excuse.
So what do you think the common theme here is? I mean, we have cannabis, we have the overuse. At the end of the day, it's addiction to all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think the common theme is throughout all of them?
Low testosterone. Honestly, I think that's the most common theme. That's why we complain about depression. That's why we have anxiety. That's why you have a shitty relationship. That's why you dislike yourself. That's why you have a shitty job. That's why you don't want to work.
Let me
you don't want to work for
Let
anyone.
me push back on this.
What?
You can struggle with those things and still have high T. So, like, on the mental side, in
On the
terms
mental
of like
side?
how you think and how you perceive the world, what is the common
dude,
thread?
I would say chasing the sexual desire is a huge one. Through what? Pornography.
So the addiction to pleasure, carnal
Yes,
pleasure.
dude. pornography is the ultimate poison to ruin your life. And it starts with your brain. The way your brain thinks about things now is completely twisted.
Yeah.
I find it weird that when I think about a woman or whatever the case is, right? I look at them as sisters. You know, I wouldn't even picture them naked, bro. And I talk to people, like, for example, where they're right next to me and they'll just like say weird comments. And I'm like, how's he even thinking that right now? You know?
Well, you know why.
I know why now. It's because of just retention. It's the respect level of, I recognize this person as a person and their achievement and their characteristic and their personality and
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm engaging with their conversation. I'm not thinking about anything other than that. Okay? Further into an interaction, you know, somewhere down the line, sometimes I feel things, you know? Great. But to go right from the bat, damn.
God damn.
Where'd you say you worked? You know? How? I don't understand that. I never understood that.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I have no sexual desire. It's just I know when it is time for that.
You
I
understand
know
how to
where
control
to
your
seek
desires.
it. You know how to control it. Exactly. Now, do you think that's the ultimate thing? That's the main point. It's the discipline behind it. It's the control. It's the relationship with yourself.
I think it is. It has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel bad for people that don't have the proper guidance, the proper mentorship, the proper characteristic, like example. They don't know that some people are just born into, like, for example, here's a very funny kind of illustration I've seen before, but it's like a little kid that's kind of just like frowning and he's like doing to some kid, right? And his tongue's out. And that tongue is connected to the back, from the back of his head to the tongue of his mother.
Oh, wow.
You've seen that?
I haven't seen that, but that makes a lot of sense.
So it's an extension of whoever raised him, type of thing.
So we're talking about the progressive degeneration.
I would
of the
say
culture.
just, you know, some people make it out of that. I've seen it. But I feel bad for those people because they think of the backbone. Imagine they do have morals, but their morals are just so ass backwards.
If you can even call them morals.
I don't know what they are at this point.
And that's not to say we're
Virtues of evil.
perfect and amazing and, like, you know, incredible, what's the word? Men of example.
Yeah.
To be able to talk to you like this. But we have got our shit together, for the most part, relatively speaking, compared to a lot of other.
Because it leaves
men
us
our
asking
age.
questions, man. If you're asking questions, then you're on a good path. Okay? If you go, why the hell did I get treated like that? Or what happened? Or, man, this thing just, it pisses me off. But I do understand also that we have the yin and the yang, and we do need that. But I feel like the proportions are way off now.
They are.
Okay? And that's where the issue is coming from. I think that's what this whole episode is generally about, is that we need to do better. And by episode 200, man, we started in COVID, and I saw people's personalities shift. I saw people go from never touching weed to smoking daily, all the way to quitting. I've seen people that smoked their entire life and quit during COVID. I've seen the opposite too, you know? And that's why I brought up the first point, you know, the whole marijuana usage, I think vastly has affected society, man. Look how long it's been. It follows the same time period of since when it was legalized, that people started shifting.
Yeah, but I think it's deeper than that.
It is much deeper. EDD is a huge thing, you know, relying on government. Government really made you feel like you were treated well and you are valued at some sort and you have control, you know, and we'll take care of you. If they really cared, they would have given you free healthcare, but they do not care.
It's really the culture at the end of the day.
Exactly.
I think that's the core, the root cause.
Yeah, the culture is lost in general. Okay, that's what I think it is, and I think for men specifically, we need to work on control a lot more. we need to stop giving these women the time of day. You need to focus on yourself. And I literally mean focus on yourself. By that, I mean dream of your goal. Write it down. Write out every single step that you need to get there. Start slowly by adding 1% a day, okay? Skip all the bullshit, wake up early, that kind of crap. Just admit to yourself, who the hell are you, okay? Do you like waking up at 12? Great. Do it. 12 is your new 6 a.m. No one's stopping you.
Just get the right things done.
Get the right things done, you know? Stop beating around the bush. Learn to know people on first impression. So study people. How do you do that? By studying attention span, by practicing attention span, by practicing retention. When you practice retention and all these like side little hobbies that you do, you know, that are just gnawing at your brain, you start to become more focused in general. When you work out, you release the hardest thing to do today. Great. So that means everything else that's hard today is easier.
Mm-hmm.
You're more focused. Those things provide focus, but you have to tell yourself to stop. You have to give it a time and place, okay? And not much time either, because you'll realize that the important things as you practice this, most of your time will go to the goals. And you'll see that the goals are going to provide you with rewards, and the reward is usually a feeling. It is not money. Money follows. Money will eventually follow, but it's usually a feeling. The reward has to be a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man.
Last thing I have to say is I was on a call with a man by the name of Alex Garner. Shout out to Alex. He's really cool. I'm in a group with a whole bunch of these guys who are high level, you know, just ultimately making connections and bringing those online connections into the real world, which I've done a very good job with on Twitter specifically. But I think that's an important thing as well. Don't spend a lot of your time on social media unless you are willing to bring those online connections into the real world.
Yeah. You know why? I have like more to add to that. It's because everyone is in their own personal bubble and their own little group bubble. Okay. So they're going to have their own ideas and philosophy and whatever the case is. And you are exposed to that. And more people are going to say more shit being behind anonymous accounts and just being behind closed doors online. So you're going to get pissed off, do whatever the case is and all this stuff, and be like, how do people like this exist? Blah, 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 blah. But if you realize, if these people in the real world were face-to-face, they wouldn't say a fucking word.
Yeah. You don't break bread online, you break bread in person.
There you go. And with that, I would say, Assalamu alaikum. This has been episode 200. You can follow us on Spotify at the 2 a.m. Podcast. We're on YouTube at the 2 a.m. Podcast. On Twitter at 2 a.m. Pod. Follow us on all socials. If you guys give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Here's to 200 more this year.
Yes, that's the goal. We're going to get to 400 by the end of 2023. Let's see it happen.
Let's do it.
Peace.